You'll learn several ways to enter the water during this course. Depending upon your physical characteristics, one you may learn is the giant stride, which is popular when diving from large dive boats or from docks onto deep water. After your pre-dive safety check, with your buddy, go to the water entry area. To avoid walking with fins on, put on your fins there if you can. You can stabilize each other or hang on to something stable. Partially inflate your BCD. Check that the entry area is clear and confirm that your buddy's ready. Breathe from your regulator and hold it and your mask like this, so they don't get bumped out of place when you splash. You can hold your instruments and accessories with the other hand. However, some divers prefer to put it on the back of their head. Look straight ahead and take a big step into the water. Keep holding your mask and regulator until you're stable on the surface. Turn to the boat or dock, poolside in this case. Signal that you're okay and clear the area for your buddy. Boat diving, you typically wait on a line trailing from near the ladder or the stern if there's a bit of a current. You use a weight check at the surface to determine proper weighting. Starting with your estimated weight, breathe from your regulator and deflate your BCD completely. Holding a normal breath, you should float at eye level. And when you exhale, you should sink slowly. If not, add or remove weight until you do. Once you're there, if you're wearing a full cylinder, add about 2 kilograms or 5 pounds. This is because the air in your cylinder has weight, and you get lighter as you use it up. The 2 kilograms or 5 pounds offsets this weight change. Sometimes a BCD band is too loose and the cylinder starts to slip. If this happens before getting into the water, it's usually simplest to take the scuba kit off and readjust it. If a cylinder comes loose during the dive, it's not usually an emergency because it will stay with the diver. Find some sand or other insensitive bottom and have her turn face down, like this. Loosen the band enough to replace the cylinder. Then tighten and lock it. If it comes loose at the surface, you may be able to re-secure it by having the diver hold on to something while breathing from her snorkel or regulator. It's usually easiest if the diver has no more air in the BCD than necessary to float. If a cylinder slips loose while exiting the water, it is often easiest to ease back into the water, slip the kit off, and then lift it from the water like this. You'll practice taking your gear off in the water at the surface so you can do this. When your snorkel's out of your mouth at the surface, it fills with water. To clear it so you can breathe, blow forcefully like this to blast the water out. You'll hear this called the blast method. After clearing, inhale cautiously and use airway control to breathe past any residual water and blast again to get rid of it. Practice this with your face in the water, which is how you do it when you're keeping an eye on something below, or when in choppy waves that, for practical purposes, mean that your face is always in the water. You switch from your snorkel to your regulator, and your regulator to your snorkel on almost every dive. Again, practice this with your face in the water. Starting with your snorkel, take a breath, then exchange it for your regulator. Clear your regulator. After a few breaths, take a breath, go back to your snorkel, clear it, and breathe. Repeat this exchange until you can do it effortlessly. During confined water dive 2, you'll begin developing your neutral buoyancy skills. One popular technique for starting out is the fin pivot. Lie face down on insensitive bottom, sand for example, if you're not in a pool. Relax, then breathe slowly and deeply. If you're approximately neutrally buoyant, you should pivot up on your fin tips as you inhale and down as you exhale. If you don't, add a small burst to your BCD and try again. make small changes. Adding a lot of air risks a rapid ascent. Be patient. When you pivot up and down as you breathe, like this, you're about neutral. Once you know how to do this, start using neutral buoyancy as your normal state while diving. For example, if you need to clear your mask, instead of kneeling, clear it in mid-water or with just light fin tip contact, in a more horizontal position. Like this. Although the fin pivot is popular, your instructor may have you use a different technique. Confined Water Dive 2 continues your mask clearing skills. You'll start by clearing a fully flooded mask, which you do just like a partially flooded one, like this. Then, you take off your mask completely. This prepares you in case it were to get dislodged completely while diving. If you're not wearing contacts, keep your eyes open. Everything will be blurry, but you'll see well enough to swim, signal your buddy, and so on. If you find it uncomfortable to breathe with your nose exposed to water at first, block it momentarily if necessary. But with a little practice, you'll be able to breathe without a mask and without blocking it. You'll practice doing this for a minute or more, which is about how long it would take to reach the surface if you lost your mask and couldn't find it. After a minute, put it back on and clear it. Then, check the seal for trapped hair or your hood under it, which would allow an annoying drizzle until corrected. A rare but possible malfunction is for your BCD or dry suit inflator to stick open. Respond by disconnecting it and venting the excess air. To start the exercise, your instructor may simulate the sticking by holding down the inflation button. Immediately disconnect the hose from the inflator, like this. It takes more effort with your regulator pressurized. Push the hose toward the connection, like this, while pulling back on the release fitting with your fingers. If you can't disconnect quickly, get relatively vertical and hold open the exhaust, like this, so you can keep your buoyancy under control while continuing to disconnect the hose. After you're finished practicing, be sure to reconnect the inflator hose. During Confined Water Dive 3, you'll learn to inflate your BCD without low-pressure inflation from your cylinder. You're better able to respond appropriately if you know what it feels like to run out of air. Your instructor will simulate this by closing your cylinder valve while you breathe and watch your SPG. Note that the pressure drops with each breath, and you'll feel breathing become noticeably difficult. When you can't get a breath, signal out of air, and your instructor will reopen your valve. You'll see your SPG return to its previous reading, and you can resume breathing. Good divers know their approximate remaining air at all times. To help you develop this ability, at times your instructor will, without prior notice, ask you to signal your air pressure without rechecking your SPG, after which you'll check together. If you're managing your air supply and monitoring your SPG as you should be within 20 bar or 300 psi. One of the exits you may learn is the ladder exit. This is a common technique when diving from larger boats. Surface near but not too close to the ladder area. If there's another diver ahead of you, don't get right under her. The diver could fall back in, or her cylinder could slip loose. If there's a current, you usually have a line to hang on to until it's your turn. When it is, approach the ladder and grab it firmly. Keep your mask on so you can see above and below the surface, and switch back to your regulator so you can breathe if you were to fall back in. Then, while keeping contact with the ladder, hand up any accessories, then remove and hand up your fins. Some divers slip adjustable fins onto their wrists, like this, so they have them to swim with if they lose their grip and get pushed away by the current. Breathe from your regulator until you're all the way aboard, and immediately take a seat and have a buddy help you get your gear off. Depending upon the boat, the ladder, surface conditions, and your physical characteristics, you may hand up your weights or your entire scuba kit before climbing the ladder. Some divers can't climb ladders at all and use different exit techniques.